It is a great honor and a privilege today to introduce our keynote speaker, Jeff Hawkins. And so I have quite a story to tell you about Jeff. Jeff started out as a graduate student here at Berkeley, and he was interested in neuroscience and brain research, and was a young graduate student bubbling over with ideas. And what he found, though, here at Berkeley, he was early in the neuroscience field, and there really was no professor to supervise him. And so he did independent research for a couple of years as a graduate student here at Berkeley, and then said, well, I've got to go out and maybe pay the bills, do some other things. And so he created the company that became known as Palm Pilot, and eventually created the handspring and the Palm cell phone, which was quite an interesting sort of adventure for him. He started with the idea that everyone would be carrying a computer in their pocket, and the idea of having a desktop PC would be outdated very rapidly. But by 1994, he realized not only was it a computer in the pocket, but also had to be a cell phone. So as early as 1994, he visualized the idea of merging the computer with the cell phone. And indeed, it was a few years later that he created the handspring trio. Well, of course, he did a lot with the Palm Pilot, but the remarkable thing was the handspring trio, which I was a customer of. Most of the faculty in my department were customers of the handspring trio, and we were all kind of amazed by it back in the year 2000. It had so much, and it had everything that later went into the iPhone. And so he's a little modest about this, but effectively he is the revolutionary who created the idea of the smartphone. I remember meeting him. There was a meeting in Washington, and I showed him I had a little problem with my handspring trio, and he says, no problem. He grabbed it from me and did some undocumented features. He programmed some undocumented features into my phone, and I was left utterly flabbergasted and amazed. But his real interest all along was in brain research and neuroscience. I should back up. I mean, the smartphone is it's produced in the largest volume of any product that has ever been produced in the history of humanity. So he was very much the originator. When the iPhone came along, it seemed like I had all the features already in my handspring trio. But he was just telling us at lunch that yes, they copied a lot of the things, but some of the good things they left out. For example, in the handspring trio, with 3 quick pushes of the buttons, you could get any name in your phone book. And it still takes me 10 buttons and waiting between the buttons to get someone in my phone book. So not everything was a forward step. Nonetheless, he is really the inventor of the smartphone in my eyes. Well, he really wanted to be smart in other ways, and namely to understand the brain. And so after he was a graduate student, he started an institute called the Redwood Neuroscience Institute. And how's this for all you graduate students out there? He donated, after he went to Palm, he donated the Redwood Neuroscience Institute to Berkeley. So it's here at Berkeley somewhere. But he went on back to what his true interest was, which is in neuroscience research, and became the co-founder of Numenta, which is the leader in cortical modeling and machine intelligence. And he's written a book, which I have, called On Intelligence, which describes progress in understanding the neocortex and the prospects for machine intelligence. Well, one of the things about machine intelligence is that in some versions it is more efficient than sending things through a CPU. And so just to describe a little bit more about Numenta, it develops biologically detailed theories of how the neocortex learns to model the world and how to generate behavior. And the company then implements these in software and applies these to real-world problems. So I'm very impressed that there's actually revenue and there are customers. And however, a lot of the software is available as open source called NUPIC. I think we'll hear more about that. With this introduction to Jeff Hawkins, who's a revolutionary and a Renaissance man, let's learn about neuroscience and the brain.